Hello and welcome to another Tag1 Team Talk, the vlog and podcast of Tag1 Consulting. I'm Michael Meyers, the Managing Director of Tag1, and today we're celebrating and looking back on 20 years of Drupal. Tag1 has a long and proud history of contributing to the platform, and we're meeting with members of our team to discuss their history and participation in the community. I'm joined today by Fabian Franz, I've known for a very long time. Fabian, can you give people just a really quick overview of your current role in the community and, 60 seconds, some of the big contributions you've made?
Sure, of course. So first let me say I love your Zoom background. It looks very authentic. No, so my name is Fabian Franz. Right now I'm a Drupal 7 core maintainer. I've brought Twig into core, the original patch. I've worked on the caching system, and Drupal 8.9, etc. is powered by a dependency injection container I wrote. So those are pretty much the biggest contributions. Besides that, I did a lot of contrib work and other things, but core-wise on Drupal, that would be the largest ones.
How long have you been a part of the Drupal community, and do you remember how you first heard about Drupal and why you decided to start using it?
Sure, of course. So I've been a member since 2009, and actually Facebook got me into it. Because at the time there were lots of websites that wanted to add Facebook Connect. And before I'd been working in Brazil on something completely non-web related, which was remote desktop computing. So more C++ stuff. And the only website we there had were a Java ORM, which was freaking complicated to spit out some web things. So, and at that time I had a friend, and they needed someone to do this Facebook integration with this thing called Drupal. Never heard about it before. And I started doing it, and it was pretty simple because, well, it's just code. So you read it, you do it. You look at Facebook's APIs, and so we integrated it. Then later we did some maps and Facebook applications, and so I got more and more into that. And then I had the idea of completely porting the Drupal 6 side. I did these Facebook integrations into Drupal 7, and let's say the project got a little bit out of scope. On the budget I had planned. But I learned a lot about it, about performance, about how to do even like real-time updates. Like we had a search for flights where it was updating in real time whenever the engine at the back end came back with a new one. So it was updating it then, pretty advanced for that time. Yeah, and so that's kind of how I started with it, and then I did some things, and things didn't work, and so then I fixed things, and because I was used to being open source and everywhere from my history with live CDs, Linux live CDs, Knoppix, and other things before. What did I do? I just contributed my code back and discussed, hey, couldn't we do it like this? And so I contribute more and more. I think one of my first patches was actually to some geography-based modules like location. And so, but I don't remember anymore. I just remember I interacted with Brandon B. Dragon at the time. That was kind of fun. Who's now a colleague of mine. And so that was pretty cool.
You talked about one of your most major contributions. Is there something that you're most proud of?
I think most proud I'm still about the Twig patch, and I think it's because it was the first, it was committed live at Bad Camp, and it was like, at that moment it was a feeling of me and Jigs against a lot of the other community members that were like very concerned about performance, etc., like that. Where in the end I've written a whole framework for automatically profiling the performance of single pages in Drupal with a very interesting method of finding the minimum, which by now I would probably use more on average. about 100 runs, and not the minimum, but at that time I was pretty much of the idea that the minimum is what, once I found it, then I know exactly that this is how fast it can go in theory. And yeah, with 1,000 runs, it's generally possible on not on dedicated hardware. It's not possible on the cloud, but on dedicated hardware to find the minimum. And so we did that, and yeah. And to get Twig into Core before feature freeze, which at the time seemed inevitable. Later it was delayed for official initiatives, but yeah, that was a big thing. And then also later, it was true community spirit at DrupalCon Portland, where essentially themers taught other themers how to do profiling, and we profiled every single template in Core till we had the numbers and were sure where we could do this and we wouldn't regress as much, and that was nice.
Wow. You talked about, changing the minimum to the average, and you talked about how you've learned so much over the years. Is there something that if you could go back, you would completely do differently or change or not do?
It's a little bit hard to say. The thing that I would have done, but that was not in my control, obviously, but I think Drupal 8.9 should have been its own product, like call it the next drop. And Drupal 7 should have continued in a long-term support-like fashion as its own project. Then Backdrop would have never happened, and people could have continued with a steady platform or use a shiny new thing, and they would have had the choice. That is kind of the change I would have made. That was never in my control, but I think that would have been the most harmonious way in hindsight.
Yeah, the transition from 7 to 8 has been challenging on many fronts. 8 is essentially a different platform in every respect, so, or most respects anyway. All right, favorite and least favorite feature of Drupal?
Which platform?
Any of them. Is there something where you're like, wow, this is one of the best things about Drupal, and something that really drives you nuts?
So I think the best part of Drupal is in a way for me right now its maturity, because it's a also from a Drupal 7 maintainer standpoint, the maturity, it's a very proven, stable platform. There's still some security issues here and there, but there's nothing break the bank right now. And stability and maturity is a nice thing. There's also a lot of things those original authors of the evolving platform thought about, and I like that a lot. I also like from the newer things like the Drupal 8.9, I like the new and shiny features like that. Yeah. What I dislike the most isn't a feature or a thing per se, so you could say that I still think the theme system needs a complete overhaul in a new component-based world, and might consider speaking about that at DrupalCon again. But what I dislike the most is the idea that we put within Drupal layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. So especially with Drupal 9, I think we as a community tended to have a point of like before we were all this procedural code, and now we need to be the perfect object-oriented abstraction code. And I think a good balance between the both would personally be better. Because if you over abstract too much, you land like in Java world. If you just write procedural and in the Java world that was not as successful as people hoped. And if you just write procedural code, it can happen that you land in spaghetti land real quick. So you have spaghetti on the one side, and you have over abstraction with layer upon layer upon layer on the other side. And Drupal especially is, in my opinion, prone to too many layers. And I think the big challenge for Drupal 9, 10, 11, whatever, is to peel away layers, to introduce new APIs that are, however, much more flat, that are also radically stripping features and are only catering to the 80%, but do that in a fast and efficient way. And not to add layer upon layer, because we have these old layers, now we add new layers upon them, etc. like that. And I'm pretty happy that we have like a perfect caching system in Drupal. I think the challenge, especially regarding new things, is coming towards really improving the speed. And you can't improve the speed if you don't reduce complexity. It's physically impossible. If you have a call stack of 1,000 things, if you can cache after 10, that's wonderful. But when you're building the cache, you still have this call stack of 1,000 things. And I think that's not necessarily necessary. Here we come back to my thing with theme system. Why are decoupled Drupal sites so liked? Why are there so much? Because they reduce complexity. You have one API point. They create queries. For example, via GraphQL, you can very well control those database queries a little bit. And you have this one point, and you don't have to deal with all the complexity of the page request, of the flow, etc. like that. You've cut off all the layers essentially. And by doing that, you've reduced complexity, and so decoupled sites can be faster in that. So yeah, that was one of the points here.
So Drupal's history has long been driven by, or should I say Drupal's success has long been driven by innovation. I look back to, I don't know if it was 4 or 5, I think it was 4, Marco introduced taxonomy, for example, and that was radical at the time. You know, delicious tagging really wasn't a thing yet. You know, that came shortly thereafter, and a lot of people adopted Drupal at that time because of taxonomy and what it offered. Does anything stand out to you as a feature that was a catalyst for the success of Drupal?
Site building. Drupal had no code before no code was a movement. Site building is essentially you give a site owner a site, they can build with it, and they can do so much with views, with layout builder, with fields. You can create whole structures without knowing anything. My sister was able to create a little site with fields and everything completely by herself, just by creating those fields like that. And that's also why I think it's a little bit of a shame that this site building experience kind of ends at the theme layer, because my dream is that we have components that you can configure via the UI as well, that you can preview, that are still simple. They don't contain much business logic. They're just for display purposes, and you can preview them, and we take the experience kind of all the way from the field system, the entity system, down to the theme system. You can build everything yourself, but you're not like restricted like with Squarespace, where you have like layouts and then you drag things around. That's nice and shiny, but take Tailwind or things like that. Many people that can't do CSS, they can do Tailwind. They can understand it. They can use these utility classes, and you can put them on Layout Builder, for example. But now think you could easily add every field. You could add those classes. You could have components for those fields to configure them differently. And I'm not speaking only of templates. I'm really speaking about a UI where you can configure all of that on the fly. And there might be some content modules out there already doing parts of that. And I think that is, for me, the next step. The other thing in terms of innovation is I think Drupal has always embraced things like jQuery early. With Backbone and underscore still around, Backbone a little bit gone away over the time, but it was a bet. That bet didn't turn out. The bet on jQuery was big. But one of the things that And again, this comes back to reducing complexity. And here we have again these two worlds of people. We have on the one hand the people that like no code, that are site builders, that would like to not deal with Git and all of those things and Composer, and they just don't want, they want a site, they want to build it, they want to download a module, they want to install it like that. This was the in a way a little bit of the old way of Drupal. And now all this enterprise shiny things came, and there's still a lot of done. I mean, Layout Builder is great for site builders. It's fantastic, even though it was built a little bit enterprise focused originally, because those are also large users of that. But I think we shouldn't leave the small people out of that, and the problem is now if you want to be like Laravel, okay, that's fine, you can be, or like Symfony, you can be, but then go completely through it. Then say we don't have runtime configuration of modules anymore, you need to do those changes here. But right now we are in a weird hybrid where some things you can only do on the code base and you cannot do it as a site builder anymore because so many people push for it, for this more being an application. And then we have other things you can still do as a site builder, but maybe shouldn't do. And this creates this little interesting conflict. Maybe Drupal needs this conflict. I mean, conflict between a large core and small core and API application was always there. And in a way, also the effect of what do you configure statically in the code, what is dynamic in the database, and how do you combine those two. But for me, the vision of Drupal and what made it great is this site building role and less the application role. Because if I want to build an application, I'd probably more use Laravel. If I really want the rough things, the rough queries and the rough edges of it. But if I want to use the entity system and this site building approach where, like in a Drupal 9 site, 90% of the code is essentially configuration, that's great.
I couldn't agree more. Site building has been a huge thing for Drupal. I wish, there was more of a no code, promotional aspect, that people talked about it more in that context, and I agree, extending it in the fashion you described would make it even more powerful. All right, so I'm going to give you a magic wand. Now, if you were to wave this magic wand and you could make Drupal do anything, you could add a killer feature, you can change, whatever you want, what would it be?
I would add Preact to Drupal in the same way we've added Preact and HTML to Drupal, in the same way we've added jQuery. And I would make it really simple to write components that are working on the server, on the client, that make it really simple to embrace React without having build steps, without adding complexity, to make using React as simple as we use jQuery. To maybe I would also add Alpine to it, just to have that available, because it's fantastic. It's great for many things. You just want to do a little bit of things like show a widget here, show that there. But this is how I would think. I would not put the enterprise React in it. I would a small little Preact into it and allow people to write interactive sites without knowing much about it. And then I would gradually take the admin experience, take the Drupal 9 toolbar, rewrite it in Preact, just put out JSON structures for those admin tools and drive Drupal with that. Not a headless approach where I need to write an API, but an approach where essentially Drupal is producing not a graph of templates, but Drupal is producing data in various buckets, and this data can be consumed by front-end and back-end components alike. This is what I would change.
Awesome. What's been your favorite part about being part of the Drupal community?
DrupalCon Portland. This is like a community spirit, just introducing Twig to the community as a great thing. And I still like Twig. I mean, that's not the point. When I speak about new component systems, you could implement with Twig, you could implement with something else. in the end, a lot of the complexity we inherited is not inherent to Twig, but inherent to Drupal. And I would like to make Drupal as simple as writing React applications, decoupled, but without all the overhead of decoupling. So Drupal Comportland, this beginning of giving the themes back a voice, a complete an initiative not built originally by an official initiative, but an unofficial initiative that only came to life because people believed in it. Morten believed in it, Jen Lambton believed in it, Chicks believed in it, and Chicks wrote on his blog and trying to help out. This is how I came to Twig. Chicks wrote on a blog and tried to help out, but I've ran into this roadblock here, and maybe someone can solve. And I was like, problem not solved. That's for me. So yeah, that was my favorite experience in the community.
When you first got started, I mean, today there's probably too many people to thank, but when you first got started and were introduced to Drupal, is there anyone that stands out as someone who, helped you a lot, helped you get started, that you want to thank for sort of indoctrinating you or helping you get up and running with Drupal?
Sure. Yes. The first person I want to thank is Catch, Nathaniel Catchpole. I mean, we have a shared interest of performance, and so over the years we've worked closely in improving performance. He's a core committer. He was already a core committer when I tried to bring Twig in, so it was fine. And he essentially mentored me a little bit on the process of what to expect, not to expect. He also brought me to Tag1, which I'm totally grateful for. And the other person would be Chicks, who was like discussing with me in the issue queues and little things in that. So yeah, that would be for me the most two influential people of the Drupal community that come to mind. And then the next persons would be Morten D. Cage and Lambton. All those people in the Twig initiative. Kotzer is the, hope I spelled this right, Cottsrer. Yeah, more in a way, I thank the Twig initiative a lot and all the people involved there because it was great. I mean, later I've made friends with Alex Pott, Krell, learned some other perspectives of how you could see things, but I think the biggest influence still was Catch and Chicks at the beginning.
Awesome. Fabian, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to give us a walk down memory lane. Really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for everybody who listened. Check us out at tag1.com/Tag1 Team Talks. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.